Hey guys, this is Big Bird 6.7 TDC. Last time I said I was going to talk about what actually it's been some months since I've actually made a video, but I got a little busy, had to take care of some family things and had some job opportunities, events I had to take care of, and I kind of I lost track. And I figured since things are dialed down now, I would go ahead and just do this video. Last time I was talking was what happens with good and bad officers, what you're going to go through when you are working as a detention officer, and what can get you hurt when you are being disrespectful toward inmates and what they will do to you. Now, inmates recognize officers who work hard. Segregation, unfortunately, still goes amongst everybody, no matter what rank you are, no matter what job you do. So even in the military, even in the police, black, white, Hispanic, all other descendants, all have or is getting discriminated against, no matter what. A few things in correctional officers as that one of the main reasons why I wound up actually quitting, I wound up leaving that because I was done with it. Plus I had my own personal agenda, and once I met my goal, I simply just stayed on for a little bit more, seen it through, and I went ahead and gave my 3-week notice. But some of the things that you will see with other officers that you will notice when you first start, or if you're in the business already, a lot of officers take these facts that I'm about to actually throw down quite literal. One, a lot of them will have that too macho complex. Number one, it's too macho. They figure since they got the top flight security badge, shield, that they're invisible. They got invisible juice on them. They can walk around talking tough, looking tough, always showing their muscles, always getting shirts that are too small for them, and not realizing most inmates in a one-on-one can actually take an officer, regardless if we call backup or not. Because on average, it'll take about 30 seconds for backup to even come to an officer's aid. So that's 30 seconds that if an inmate will is strong, they will simply hurt you. And walking around too macho, inmates will actually, get a battery and go to work on you and see how tough you really are. So being too macho was one of those things that I never did. I was a big person, I'm close to 6'7", but that's not where I got to 6'7" at. Being a big person as I am, about 260, 6'7", big tall black guy, let a lot of words slide off me like they ain't even nothing. And a lot of inmates, when they first see me, it was like, okay, it was like, all right, well let's mess with him. They would call me Patrick Ewing mustache because my mustache looked like Patrick Ewing. And they would call me Big Pants Little Hands because apparently I had little hands according to them, but I was wearing my big boy pants. That was some funny times there. But when they would question on what all I did before in my life, I didn't give them the actual answer that they wanted. I was mostly a quiet person. They asked me what was my intent. I was like, well, you'll know who I am when I call a town hall meeting. And every day my reputation preceded me because apparently one of the guys that was at a different prison across the states that apparently he got transferred or he got out, came to the state I'm currently in, did some mischief and ended up in jail. And he was like, hey, wait, don't I know you? And he apparently told people what my actual agenda was and what kind of person I was when I was an officer at the same, at the prison that he went to. And so my reputation kind of preceded me because of one particular inmate, and there you go. And so after a little minute, they seen that I wasn't a macho big person. I expressed my authority to the fullest. I was consistent. I was fair, firm, and consistent in how housing unit treated me was how I treated the housing unit. And I told them I had my, certain things I always want to keep with keeping a clean housing unit. Keep your rooms clean. Don't smell like butts and balls juice, because that's just nasty. Make sure you're taking a shower, because if you ain't, I'm getting you out of my housing unit, because you ain't gonna walk around and have gnats all in my area. But moving on. Number 2, the biggest thing you will see as a correction officer is tardiness. And this is the thing I don't get. I never understood this part. How is it that if you have a family emergency, you're a house supervisor, and I've had this done to me on numerous occasions, especially with my little daughter, have emergency problems. They want you to bring a note in. Or if you tell them you're unable to get a note, you just need, 24 hours to actually monitor over your child, because maybe your wife or your girlfriend's not able to actually watch over the child, and she may be sick. And there's no way you can get a sick note from a doctor just because of one small little incident. And they'll tell you got to bring a sick note, or you just got to come in tomorrow, or you have to actually go and get a sick note or something. Or they give you some random BS excuse. But they would allow a detention officer who was drinking that previous night have a hangover and sleep it off. And yet he or she don't have to bring an actual sick note. Mainly it was men that did it a lot. And that's the thing that really irked me, was that they would allow that to happen, and yet they didn't say anything to them. I've seen seven officers who used that to the T, called off a matter of at least 7 to 11 times in a 2-month period, and not once get sent, somewhere that was really crappy, like a really shitty pod that they always getting turned up in there. Number 3, getting called racist names. It's one thing to get called racist names by an inmate. They'll do it all day long. But to get called racist names by other officers who think it's funny, to where they'll find your extension on your whatever housing unit you're in, call you all kinds of names. Like I was called damn near everything in the book for a black person. And they would hang up. And then on top of that, some of the other officers will also go with my number 4. They won't help you when you really need the help. Sometimes if they see that certain supervisors are not on that shift, or they're gone for that day, and it's just they can actually see into your housing unit to where they're in a location or a spot in the jail or the prison that they have access to the cameras and they can watch your housing unit, they will call you just to taunt and harass you just because they feel it's funny. And that's something you'll have to get used to. And it was actually 7 occasions that happened to me. Out of the 7, I reported 3. Out of that 3, only 1 really got noticed. Because not only did I have, at the same time, it was actually a gang fight that was in my housing unit. I was trying to get on the phone to a supervisor, couldn't get one. Made my notes, emailed, couldn't get no responses. I'm dealing with a stressful matter, because on top of that, I had guys who was actually going into other actual inmates' actual cells, taking shit intentionally, boiling this actual, this gang fight going, because I had Bloods and Crips in my housing unit. And I'm not talking, Crips here, the wannabes. No, I had actual Crips that was from California. And I had seen their record that these guys were from California. They were from Inglewood. They were from Compton. Somehow, some way, they were brought to the state. Well, they came to the state, and they were in the same damn housing unit. And I was in a open dorm, well, not open dorm, closed actual dorm, actual housing unit. And it was so intense. We're arguing, yelling. Even when I'm on the radio, calling for some escorts. The guy would help me actually go ahead and put all these guys down, see if I can get permission to do any of that. I got according to IA, which I've never heard the full story of it, that it was at least 2 officers who was calling my phone saying, "Nigger, you need to actually get those actual inmates and get all the other actual monkeys in line before I have to come down there." And they said their name of an actual supervisor who apparently wasn't even on duty. And I mean, it was constant calling, constant, go make sure you do this, do that. I'm thinking, okay, I was told that this officer wasn't there, supervisor, but apparently he was. The way this person sounded, and convinced themselves they had their voice almost to the T. So I'm dealing with a stressful night. Comes all down. It's nothing but a little fuck game. And what made it so bad was that wound up leading to an actual fight. It wound up leading, if it wasn't for one corporal who came in to actually check in on me, and I told him what was going on, and he says, "Wait, hold on. What just happened?" He was, instead of him actually being more concerned with the housing unit, he got immediately responding to what was going on with me. And so it took the fact is that of an actual corporal doing his actual everyday routine, or his actual job, because not all the corporals did that. This particular one actually did, and he does listen. And I was glad he actually came in on his day off. He heard what I was saying. He went ahead and helped me out, got at least 9 other different officers to come in there, shut the pot down, quiet it all down. I told him what was going on. I had a buku of paperwork to actually do up. And when I told him about the actual calls, he says he's going to look into it. Next thing you know, right when it's all done, everybody's down for the night, I get more calls. Go do this, go do that, go check this, go check that. I'm watching you on the camera. Yeah. That kind of BS. Here's something else you will notice that officers will do if they're really maniacal and they have a bad reputation. They'll come into some of the most worst pods and get it riled up with another officer. And I mean riled up as in he'll randomly go to doors, if their door is even cracked open, or if they're just went in their door and they were grabbing something to come right back out, he'll go in there, tell them to come out, flip all their stuff up, flip their beds, flip their mattress, take their Bibles, their Qurans, and he'll just toss it all up for no reason. Yeah, I get it. It's a cell search. It's a shakedown. I get it. But why would you also take their food, toss it out in front of their cell, and they just made it, and simply think it's all fine? And they go around the entire pod doing that. And he'll do it. And I've seen a few officers do this where they'll go around the other pods and just do it just because that's what they want to do. They'll deliberately do that. And then when everybody's actually mad, then they'll go down telling one of those guys, the inmates, that's actually pretty much playing chess. And they'll be sitting there just, keeping score, because some of the inmates, they will actually gamble, which you can't always stop it. You really can't. And they'll be sitting there actually tallying up, because there was one game I was watching where one of the inmates were actually, they were playing chess, and every time you took certain pieces, you earned a certain amount of actual money, which, I found, whatever. They're not gambling that I can actually see them actually trading off things. It's more of they're keeping a retaliation score. Now, with the gambling, they had a specific rule of what you should be looking for and how you would actually interact with it. Until then, you don't interact with it. But this officer actually did that. Got it so turned up, took 2 inmates that apparently, because they said, fuck you to them, using harsh language. Like, they took the guys off the damn actual pod just because of that. And they got a bunch of the inmates actually stirred up. Then what they did was they went ahead and pretty much took a lot of the papers that inmates were just actually writing, keeping scores on, just to take it. And I'm like, why are you coming in here to rally these guys up? Why have to spend an 8 or 12-hour shift with these guys, and you only got to come in here for a mere 5 minutes? You will experience that. You will experience it. The best way I would say to do it, if it comes to that point and inmates are riled up, flip the lights at least 3 or 4 times. Get their attention, like get their attention on the entire pod. Don't say sorry, because it's not your responsibility to say that, and you don't really ever want to say sorry. You pretty much just inform them. You just inform the inmates that they know who those particular officers are. And if you're not familiar with who they are and what they do, that's what they do. And just tell them to enjoy the rest of the night. It's a little harsh, but it's what they do. And at the same time, it's jail. Number 5. This is a very good one, and it's unprofessional. It's very disrespectful. And even out here in the streets, I think all inmates, anybody who's ever actually lived on the streets with thugs, anybody who ever had a childhood life where you grew up on the streets, if anybody ever disrespected you in front of your people, it shamed you. It makes you look real bad. Number 5 is being downgraded in front of inmates. There's officers who will tell you, who's been on the job a little long, tell you in front of inmates, don't let these inmates punk you. You better control them, all right? Or I have to control you if I have to come in here. And they'll look at the inmate who's telling the officers, like the supposedly senior officer, that they're not even a sergeant or a corporal. So who are they to actually, correct an officer who's controlling the pod? And they will do that. It's out of spite. Which I've always found that very messed up, that when officers did that you would tell an officer, okay, do this and do that in front of officers or in front of an actual, inmate. Because by you saying that, because inmates recognize when somebody of a corporal or a sergeant or even a captain is in a housing unit, and they tell one of their actual officers, hey, you need to do this right here, you need to do this right here, and that's just their observation, like, hey, that's chain of command. But if another officer tells them that, thinking that they're top flight security of a sergeant, Officer Doofy kind, no. That's very disrespectful. Very. Very, very disrespectful. What? Oh, here's another thing here that you will come across as an officer. You will meet, of course, you're going to meet immature officers all the time. But one thing that really sticks out is that you will meet officers or DOs that really they just have a hard on for just being disrespectful toward other officers. It can be more likely toward you. Personally, myself, I was a quiet person. I went to work, clocked in, heard debriefings, went to my housing unit, hung around at the officer station for a little minute, go get me something from the snack machine, whatever, coconut smile, and I'll go to my actual housing unit, pick up some cleaners, pick up some gloves, I'll pick up pretty much everything I would more likely use, so I know I would actually have it, and I would go on with my day. And some officers just have that complex that they don't care what kind of day you're having. They're just going to treat you horrible, treat you like shit. You would think how you talk to people is how you can either get that respect or you don't. But it is what it is, and not many people really care too much about that. Anyways, maybe one day I'll add another episode to this, and we'll go from there. Until then, I'm going to wrap this video up. Next time you guys will probably see me, I'll probably wear my unicorn head, my head mascot piece, sitting on my front porch or something. Later on this year, I am going to talk about my top 5, male and female celebrities that I've actually always loved, whatever movies or whatever events that they're in, no matter who they are. Which one of them is, I'll love to meet them. Other than that, if you're a correctional officer who's watching this, who's going into the field, best of luck to you. This is just my opinion of how this all landed. I'm an IT nut myself. Oh, and that's another thing I forgot to add was if you're actually qualified for certain positions, I mean literally qualified with your actual bachelor's degree when you first go in there, or if you are, have past experience from doing that particular actual field, and you just happen to, because one of them I was trying to go for was the actual IT field, and they had several positions opened up, especially around the city, especially in the courthouse as well. They overlooked me like it was nothing, and I was one of the best qualified to go in there to actually succeed. And I was even told this by my captain, because he also seen the other actual candidates. He said me and someone else had a better chance of getting hired. And out of 17 candidates, they were only picking 6. Come to find out, one of them, which I can actually say this because I don't work there anymore, now that I see, he was using the actual camera systems, which is he was using the camera systems to watch inmates of the opposite gender while they were in medical. I'll leave that to your eyes there. And on top of that, he had a bad reputation already with violating actual policies